Welcome to our deep dive into the storytelling of Brandon Sanderson.
Okay.
You've given us a really interesting mix of sources here.
Yes.
A biography, some articles that analyze his style, and even some of his lectures on writing.
Yeah.
It's like we're about to get a masterclass in fantasy writing.
It is.
Today, let's unpack what makes Sanderson's work tick.
It's really fascinating to go beyond just enjoying his books
Yep.
and really look at the craft behind them. You know,
Right.
He's become such a powerhouse in the fantasy genre.
He has.
So understanding how he structures stories,
Yeah.
how he creates characters,
Right.
build worlds can be really insightful for any fan or aspiring writer.
Okay, let's start with something that struck me as unusual.
Sure.
His background.
Okay.
He didn't start out as an English major, did he?
Not at all.
No.
He actually began his academic journey in biochemistry.
Biochemistry, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so not the typical path you think of for a fantasy novelist.
It's true.
I read that he actually wrote 7 novels
Wow.
while working the night shift at a hotel.
That's dedication.
That's some serious dedication.
It is.
What do you think that says about his approach to writing?
It speaks volumes about his work ethic and his perseverance.
Yeah.
It wasn't a hobby for him.
Right.
It was clearly something he was driven to do.
Yeah.
And I think that level of commitment
Yeah.
is something that resonates with a lot of aspiring writers.
Absolutely.
He's living proof that you don't have to follow a conventional path
Right.
to achieve success.
It's encouraging, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to, check off all the boxes to get where you want to be.
Exactly.
He definitely didn't become a bestseller overnight.
Right. Yeah.
There were a lot of rejections along the way.
Yeah.
I imagine that was discouraging.
Of course.
How did he push through that and keep going?
It's important to remember that even the most successful authors face rejection.
Yeah, that's true.
Part of the process. What set Sanderson apart was his willingness to keep learning
Okay.
and refining his craft.
Yeah.
He didn't let those early setbacks define him. He used them as fuel to improve his writing.
It's almost like he had to go through that to
Right.
get to where he is.
Possibly.
That's inspiring, especially for anyone listening who might be facing their own creative challenges.
Absolutely.
Now,
Yeah.
I have to ask about something that boggles my mind.
Okay.
His productivity. Sanderson puts out multiple books a year.
He does.
How does he manage that workload without burning out?
Well, his process is fascinating.
Okay.
He structures his writing day into 2 dedicated sessions,
Oh, wow.
one in the afternoon and another late at night.
This is like a
machine.
Machine, yeah.
To keep things fresh, he alternates between projects
Oh, that's smart.
with different tones and styles.
Okay.
So he might be working on an epic fantasy novel,
Yeah.
then switch gears to a lighter young adult project
Okay.
to prevent creative fatigue.
So it's almost like cross-training
It is.
for your imagination.
Yeah.
And it's a great example of how to break down large goals into manageable chunks.
Exactly.
Now, on top of his own original work,
Yeah.
he also took on the massive undertaking of finishing Robert Jordan's
Yes.
Wheel of Time series.
Yes.
Huge. That must have been daunting.
Absolutely.
Stepping into another author's world.
Right.
Especially one as complex and beloved as The Wheel of Time is a huge challenge.
It is.
But Sanderson not only completed the series,
Yeah.
he'd do it in a way that honored Jordan's vision,
Right.
while also bringing his own storytelling strengths to the table.
It was a delicate balance.
It was.
But he pulled it off.
He did.
And that project solidified his reputation in the fantasy world.
Yeah, it really put him on the map in a way that
Yeah.
nothing else could. And what's incredible is that he shares his knowledge and process so freely.
Right.
His BYU lectures on creative writing are available online for anyone to watch.
It's amazing.
It's like getting a free masterclass
It is.
from a best-selling author.
It's incredible.
I mean, who does that?
Yeah. Very generous.
Those lectures offer a treasure trove of insight
I'll do.
into Sanderson's approach to storytelling.
Absolutely.
He breaks down complex concepts in a clear,
Yeah.
engaging way, making them accessible to writers of all levels.
He does a great job with that.
Let's dive into some of those concepts, starting with his core plot structure, promises progress and payoff.
Right.
It sounds simple enough,
Yeah.
but what makes this framework so effective?
Well, it all comes down to managing the reader's expectations.
Okay.
You're making promises about the kind of story you're telling, then demonstrating progress towards fulfilling those promises.
Okay.
but not without introducing twists and turns along the way.
Right. Like you don't want it to be predictable.
Exactly.
You got to keep people guessing. That payoff, that moment when all the pieces come together is what leaves a lasting impression on the reader.
It is.
Can you give an example of this structure in action?
Sure.
Maybe from a movie or book our listener might be familiar with.
Think about a film like Knives Out.
Okay, yeah, I love that movie.
We're promised a classic whodunit mystery.
Right.
A wealthy family, a suspicious death, and a quirky detective investigating.
Exactly.
The progress comes as we uncover clues and alibis. But Rian Johnson, the director, expertly weaves in unexpected twists.
He does.
That keep us guessing until the very end.
Right.
The payoff is the brilliant reveal of the killer's identity. And their motive. It's satisfying because it delivers on the promise of a clever mystery while also subverting our expectations.
And you're like, what? I didn't see that coming.
Exactly.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
It highlights how this structure creates both anticipation and surprise. And what I find interesting is that this framework isn't just limited to fiction. You can use it to analyze any story.
Oh, absolutely.
Even in news articles or historical accounts.
You can.
It helps you identify the core elements of a narrative. The promises being made, the evidence presented as progress, and the ultimate conclusion or payoff.
Absolutely.
It's a valuable tool for understanding how stories are constructed and how they impact us as readers or viewers.
It is.
It's like having a secret decoder ring for storytelling.
For sure.
But Sanderson doesn't just focus on plot.
No.
He's also known for creating compelling, relatable characters. He talks a lot about motivation as a driving force. What does he mean by that?
So for Sanderson, motivation is all about understanding what drives a character's actions. It's about digging deeper than surface level goals. And uncovering their core needs and desires.
So like, what are they striving for?
Exactly.
What are they afraid of? What obstacles stand in their way?
Absolutely. All of those things.
So it's not just about what a character wants, but why they want it and what internal struggles they might be facing.
Exactly.
It makes them feel more real.
It does.
Human, right?
Absolutely. When you understand a character's motivation, their choices become more meaningful. Their actions have weight because we see the underlying reasons behind them. It's what makes us root for them, even when they make flawed decisions.
We understand why they're doing what they're doing. Can you think of a Sanderson character who really exemplifies this? Someone whose motivations are particularly complex or interesting?
I think Vin from Mistborn is a great example. She starts as a street urchin, skilled in thievery and survival. Her initial motivation is simply to stay alive in a brutal world. But as she joins Kelsier's crew and learns about her own powers, her motivations evolve. She begins to yearn for something more.
It's a sense of belonging and purpose.
Right.
It's that evolution, that internal conflict between her past and her potential that makes her such a compelling character.
Yeah, because she's not static.
Exactly.
She's changing throughout.
She is.
It's those internal conflicts that make characters feel relatable.
They do.
They have to make tough choices.
Right.
And those choices have consequences.
Absolutely.
Now, these characters are often operating in incredibly rich, detailed worlds.
They are.
Sanderson is known for his immersive world building.
He is.
What makes his approach so effective?
He focuses on creating a sense of depth and history.
Okay.
His worlds feel lived in.
Yeah.
Like they existed long before the story began and will continue long after it ends.
Right. You can imagine what happens after you close the book.
Exactly.
He considers factors like geography, culture, social structures, even the magic systems.
Yes.
To craft a world that feels cohesive and believable. It's all interconnected.
It is.
Nothing is arbitrary.
Right.
It all serves a purpose.
You mentioned magic systems.
I did.
Sanderson has a pretty unique take on how magic works in his stories.
Yeah.
He's all about setting rules and limitations. Why does that matter?
This is one of the hallmarks of Sanderson's writing.
Okay.
He believes magic shouldn't be a free-for-all.
Okay.
A way to easily solve any problem.
Right.
If magic is too powerful or unpredictable, it removes the stakes.
Okay.
There's no tension, no sense of danger by establishing clear rules and limitations. He creates a system where magic has consequences.
Okay.
Where characters have to think strategically.
Yeah.
About how they use it.
It can't just be like a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Exactly. It can't just solve everything.
Right.
There have to be limitations.
It's like in a video game.
Yeah.
If you have unlimited lives or invincibility, it takes away the challenge.
Exactly.
It's the limitations, the risk of failure that make the game exciting.
Absolutely.
So it's the same with the magic systems.
Yeah.
Those limitations force characters to be more resourceful.
They do.
They can't simply rely on magic to get them out of every situation.
Exactly.
They have to use their wits, their skills, and sometimes even make sacrifices to achieve their goals.
Absolutely.
It raises the stakes and makes those victories feel earned.
It does.
Now, Sanderson doesn't just create these incredible worlds and magic systems. He's also very generous.
He is.
In sharing his knowledge.
Yeah.
He's famously said, finish what you start, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Why is that advice so important?
So many creative projects never see the light of day.
Right.
Because of perfectionism.
Oh, yeah.
We get bogged down in self-doubt. In editing and revising before we've even finished a first draft.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Sanderson's advice is a reminder that done is better than perfect.
Okay.
At least in those early stages.
Yeah.
Get the story down.
Yeah.
Then worry about polishing it later.
It's about silencing that inner critic.
Yeah.
That voice that tells you it's not good enough.
Right.
He also talks about turning off the inner editor while drafting. How can writers learn to do that?
It's about giving yourself permission to be messy.
Okay.
To experiment, to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Those early drafts are about exploration. About finding the art of the story.
Right.
The editing and refining can come later.
Yeah.
But the first step is to simply get the words on the page.
Like a brain dump almost.
It is.
Just get it out.
Get it out.
It's like sketching out a rough draft.
Yeah.
Before committing to the final painting.
Exactly.
It frees you up to be more creative.
It does.
Now, Sanderson is obviously a highly successful author.
Yes, he is.
But like all writers, he has his strengths and weaknesses. What are some of the things he's most praised for?
Readers consistently applaud his immersive world building.
Okay.
The intricate magic systems we've discussed.
Yeah.
And his talent for crafting fast-paced action sequences. He excels at building tension.
Right.
And keeping the reader on the edge of their seat.
Yeah.
His stories are often described as page-turners.
Okay.
The kind you can't put down.
So you're hooked from the beginning.
You are.
And on the flip side,
are
there areas where he receives criticism?
Some readers find his prose to be straightforward.
Okay.
Lacking the lyrical flourishes that some authors employ.
Right.
Others feel that his romantic relationships, while present, don't always reach the same level of complexity as other elements of his writing.
It's interesting how those critiques highlight the subjective nature of reading.
It is.
What one person considers a weakness, another might see as a strength.
Exactly. It comes down to personal preference.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Some readers crave intricate prose, while others prefer a more direct, action-oriented style.
Yeah.
What matters is whether the overall story resonates with you.
Right. And I think Sanderson's teaching style reflects that.
I agree.
He's very approachable.
Yeah.
Humorous and practical.
Yes.
He doesn't present himself as the ultimate authority on writing. It's more like he's sharing what works for him and encouraging others to find their own path.
Exactly. He emphasizes that there's no one right way to write a story. It's about experimentation.
Yeah.
About discovering your own voice and, most importantly, having fun with the process.
Right, and that comes through in his lectures.
It does.
I mean, he seems like he genuinely enjoys what he does and wants other people to enjoy it too.
Exactly. Yeah, and that comes through in his lectures.
Yeah, he seems like he genuinely enjoys what he does.
He does.
And wants other people to enjoy it too. It's refreshing to see an author who's achieved that level of success still be so grounded and accessible.
Absolutely.
So as we come to the end of our deep dive into Sanderson's world, what are some of the key takeaways that stand out to you?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that there's no magic formula for storytelling success.
Okay.
It's about hard work, dedication, and a willingness to learn and grow. And Sanderson's journey from biochemistry to best-selling author demonstrates that.
And what I found particularly inspiring was his generosity in sharing his knowledge.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fact that his lectures are freely available is a gift.
It is.
For anyone interested in writing.
It really speaks to his passion for the craft.
Yeah.
And his desire to help others succeed. And I think his emphasis on setting rules and limitations for magic systems is something that can be applied to any creative endeavor. It's a reminder that constraints can actually fuel creativity.
It's counterintuitive.
It is.
But it makes sense.
Yeah.
Those limitations force you to think outside the box.
Yeah.
To be more resourceful, to find clever solutions.
Right. You have to work within those parameters.
Right.
And that can often lead to more interesting and creative results.
So as we wrap up,
I
have a challenge for our listener.
I like it.
If you could design your own magic system, what would be its one defining rule or limitation? What would make it unique and interesting?
That's a great question.
And think about the consequences of using magic in your world. What would it cost the character?
Right. Would there be physical limitations, ethical dilemmas? Or maybe even a social stigma attached to magic use?
Those are all really interesting things to think about.
Absolutely.
But it's those consequences that raise the stakes.
They do.
And make the story more engaging. And Sanderson's work is full of examples of how to do this effectively.
It is.
So if you haven't already, I highly recommend checking out his books or even his lectures.
Absolutely.
There's a wealth of knowledge to be gained.
There is.
From this master storyteller.
He's a great teacher.
He is.
And a fantastic writer.
And who knows? Maybe you'll be inspired to create your own epic fantasy world.
Right.
Complete with a unique magic system that will captivate readers for years to come.
That's the dream.
It is, for years to come.
That's the dream.
It is the dream.
It is.
Well, on that note, I think we've pretty thoroughly explored the world of Brandon Sanderson.
We did a deep dive.
We did a deep dive.
For sure.
Thanks for joining me on this journey.
It was my pleasure.
And to all of our listeners out there.
Yes.
Keep reading, keep writing.
Absolutely.
And keep exploring those fantastical worlds.
And keep dreaming.
And keep dreaming.
Yes.